There we go. All right, so we're recording. Jimmy,
Pablo,
how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
It's been a long day. Yeah, it's been a long day, that's for sure.
Okay.
But before we get into that, do me a favor and introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Jimmy Zhang, and Pablo and I met actually probably back in, was it fall league of some random soccer team we
Yeah.
both joined. I think Pablo was a free agent. I was on the team with a few of my buddies, and
How long had you been living in the city at that time?
probably like 2 or 3 months, three or 4 months. I moved in May, so it's still pretty recent. I was still adjusting to kind of New York City and all the craziness that this wonderful place is. But yeah,
Wonderful. Some people hate this place. I don't know why.
well, if I feel like if you hate it, then you could just leave, man. It's not like there's that. Well, maybe if their job is keeping you there, but
Yeah.
it's like it's not for everyone for sure. But I'm definitely enjoying it.
Yeah, but and you were coming from where?
I was coming from California, San Francisco, San Diego.
Mm.
I didn't really kind of moved here because I just didn't want to go back to California. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I had some friends out here. Didn't really know how long I was going to stay.
So what, you
Didn't
just
really,
came and not knowing what you were gonna do?
not really. Yeah, it was kind of like a half formulated plan. Like it was really like I didn't want to go back to California because I was kind of tired of it. I wanted to just start something like just go somewhere that I had no ties to, I had no familiarity with. And now it's been what, like close to, I don't know how many months, 7 months,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say, I mean, if you moved here in May, before you know it, it's gonna be a year.
I know it's been a wild year, but it's been a good time. I couldn't see myself anywhere else right now, which is really, really nice.
See, that's special. When
Mm,
you're in a place and you feel at home,
uh-huh.
you're lucky.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I'm starting to learn that. Well, I've kind of felt it already, and I've kind of like started to like acknowledge that for a while, but
Mm,
every now and then I'll meet people and they're like, "Man, like where I live, it's okay. It's okay." But me,
mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Man, I'm lucky." And I guess you're
Yeah.
lucky too, right? You're in a place where you're like, "Fuck yeah. I love where I live."
Yeah, I can't see myself anywhere else right now. It's just something about, they say it's cliche, but like the energy here, it's nice. It keeps me keeps me excited, keeps me looking forward to different things. Like even this podcast is kind of, I figured out that you were doing this podcast because the time when we met was when I was about to quit my job and trying to figure out what I was doing next. And one of the things that I just really like is kind of learning about people and their stories. And I think that led to you talking about your podcast. And I looked it up on Spotify and I was like, oh crap, there's already like 30, 40 episodes of this. And I was looking at through some of the people that you had interviewed, and it was like such a wide variety of people. And I was like, oh man, this guy's doing something really, really cool. So, and I think I just like felt like there was some part of us that were connected in that way. Like this is stuff that really is really important to us. And yeah, since then we've just been kind of hanging out and I've been getting to know your friends a little bit, and it's been a good time.
Yeah, I've said this a million times on the podcast. I am beyond lucky to have like the friends that I have,
Mm,
like the support system and everything, right? Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's I don't take it for granted for 1 minute.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's kind of like, I think one of the things that I've realized is like the older that you get, the more the other people in your life matter. It's like less about you and it's more about how you fit in with other people and like what they do for you, what you can do for them. And just having quality people around you just makes your day and your day to day and your life so much better. It's like, it's really, there's no other replacement for that.
Yeah, and I mean just appreciating it, right? Like at the
Hmm.
moment. Like that's the one thing that I have like what I don't like is when people are expecting something. And I don't know if you've noticed this in New York,
Hmm.
but man, it seems like everyone has an agenda.
Mm,
Like when I meet people, most of them have an agenda. They're like, all right, what can you do for me? Or what do you
mm,
provide? Or what can I
hmm.
get from you, right?
Hmm.
I have nothing to provide, dude. I ain't got shit.
Uh-huh.
But when I meet people who are just genuinely like, oh, you're cool,
Hmm.
let's just hang out. I want
Yeah.
nothing from you. I'm like, yo, that's the people that I can like hang out with all day.
That they don't really like drain you of your energy or anything like that. You can just be
They're
yourself
they're
around.
just not looking for anything, right?
Mm.
Like they're
How can you tell that that's something that what are the signals that you see in people?
honestly, for me, it's pretty blatant when somebody
Mm-hmm.
wants something or they have a
Mm.
goal. I mean, I hate to say it, but I've met so many people who are like, all right, yeah, you got to help me like find girls. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. Like, I'm okay going out and like looking for girls. Like, that's not a problem, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoy drinking and socializing.
Mm-hmm.
But then it becomes obvious that that's literally like your job is to like help
Oh.
them. And it's like, oh, well, it gets old.
Is it like if you're not doing that, you have no value to them, basically,
Exactly.
rather than just like letting them be who they are and just like whatever. I just like hanging out with you as a person, and then you don't have like we could be doing nothing right now. We're just enjoying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I just got done grabbing a drink with David, my neighbor, and we
Mm-hmm.
literally had just one drink, just talked about nonsense, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Yeah,
no agenda. There was
yeah.
no anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the
Mm-hmm.
most blatant example that I have of this is this guy that I knew a couple years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I told him, I was like, "Hey, do you want to grab a drink?" He was like, "Yeah, let's grab a drink." And I was like, "Perfect." You know,
Mm-hmm.
I have a drinking buddy in New York. This is great.
Yeah, yeah.
We meet up, go into a bar. He looks around. He's like, "Nah, there's not any cute girls in here. We got to go to the next bar." And I'm like, "Okay." And so we go to the
Mm-hmm.
next bar. And he's like, "Let me walk around. Let me see if I see any cute girls." And I'm like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah, like what am I doing here? Like, am I
Yeah,
just here so you're not alone, type of thing?
yeah. And so then like he looks around. He's like, "Nah, no cute girls." I'm like, "Okay." And so he's like, "Let's go to the next one." And I mean, here in New York, there's unlimited bars, right?
Yeah,
So into as soon as we got into the next one, I was like, "Dude, I don't care. We're grabbing a drink or I'm heading out." Right? Like, I didn't come
yeah,
here to like scope out anything. I just came here to grab a drink and chit chat and I don't know, hang
sure.
out.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Hanging out is so underrated.
It is. I think that's the nice thing about New York, at least for me coming from California. It's just like I was just coming from drinks with my friend too, and it's kind of like you can just have that bang bang, like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm talking to this person right now, I'm getting dinner with this person, I'm getting drinks with this, I'm doing a podcast now, and you're just feeding off each other's energy the entire time. Like everyone I've talked to today is just so different in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of notice, I notice certain things about certain people, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just like you're just like me, you're just around people all the time, and I feel like, especially for me as someone who kind of grew up like probably more on the introverted side, now I'm feeling myself being more like, oh, I want to hang out with people all the time. It's kind of a new change in me. It's like sometimes I'll be at home on a Saturday and I'm kind of like in between things. Maybe I just played basketball in the morning and like I'm waiting until dinner and I have a couple hours to kill. And I'm like, man, I just like want to talk to somebody right now. Kind of just want to call somebody and say what's up to them, which has been I don't know if I've ever felt like that way in my life before. So
It's kind of addicting.
it is. Yeah, it
Getting
is.
that energy off of like I don't know, just action. I
Yeah.
don't know how else to describe it. It's just there's action somewhere, and
Just doing things, right?
yeah, you involve yourself, and you become a part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
people feed off of your energy, right? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%. I think that's definitely alive in New York more so than any other place that I've been to, that I've lived in. And it makes like I live in my parents are from San Diego, and I'm gonna be spending some time with them next week. And I know it's just gonna be much more chilled and much more low key and much more slow,
mm-hmm.
and it's just kind of it's crazy how different that it feels like. And it's like, I know it sounds so cliche, but like I guess when you're actually living it, it's real and it is addictive, exactly like you're saying. Like it's just like some pulse that you're a part of and you're contributing to and you're feeding off of and other people are feeding off you. Yeah, man. It's a good place.
And it's good that you kind of get those breaks, right? Because I'm the same way. Like
Mm,
I go home, hang out with my parents, hang out with my brothers or whatever,
yeah.
and it's quiet, it's slow, and it's like, okay, this lets me know that I'm in the right place in New York.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So
Not that I don't
you
love them or anything like that, but it's like, all right, I need to go
yeah,
back.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I get that. But I will appreciate the slowness and kind of like the openness and the
Yeah.
close the air in San Diego and the sunshine and all that. I'll take a moment to just kind of like bask it all in when I'm there.
So
But
what drove you to quit your job?
yeah, that's a good question, man. Um,
Because I wish I had the balls to do that.
I mean, like first of all, I think I'm pretty fortunate to be able to quit my job. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty blessed, and it's not something that I acknowledge that I think I want to acknowledge more to myself that like, okay, I was lucky enough to find a job in software engineering right after I graduated college. Um, and my parents helped me out with like investing money early after I graduated, which has given me kind of like the financial freedom to quit my job for a little bit,
Right.
right? And I was working as a software engineer before, and really the thing that um, made me want to quit the most was just I kind of hated it. Like I just didn't really like. I didn't like doing any part of it, or the times that I felt energized, or the times that I felt like I enjoyed what I was doing, it might have been like 5 to 10% of the time, and the rest of the time I just couldn't get it out of my head that I should be doing something else. Um,
You couldn't ignore the
exactly,
displeasure of it,
ex-
right?
exactly. I just couldn't ignore it anymore. Like it. I remember like the last few weeks before I quit, like I couldn't even get out of bed just because I was dreading the day so much.
Mm.
And it's just like I felt like there was kind of this huge weight that I was carrying, and I just couldn't really do it anymore. Um, Especially because there's things that in my life, like writing and teaching, that I knew I had more of a passion for, um, that I knew that were much more meaningful to me. I think like much more aligned with my personal values. So yeah, at some point I just said I can't do this anymore. I need to quit. So that was back in November. So it's been almost 4 months now. I guess 3 months, 3 months
So
and a week. Yeah.
so not to like get into too much detail here, but
Uh huh.
what would you say that was it that about your job that kind of drained you that much? Was it the actual work? Was it like the people? Was it the schedule?
Uh huh.
And again, we don't have to go
Um,
into too much detail, but I'm just curious.
I think the at some level, like I just can't get aligned with a like making the some of the decisions that I think we are making and some of the stuff that I was doing. It just felt like so much like, okay, we're just trying to make more money here, or we're trying to
Mm.
increase our engagement here. It just it felt like a lot of bullshit to me,
It's
for lack of a better word.
that
Yeah,
corporate feel of like, hey, shut up, just help us make more money.
exactly. Like we're trying to window dress it with all these different angles or put all these spins on it, but at the end of the day, like it was either that or like somebody is really trying to push their own influence or like trying to push politics within the company, and I feel like
Right,
I'm very
right,
very
right.
sensitive to that. um and it just didn't, I don't know, like it just I always knew that was happening at some level. And then definitely like working from home during the pandemic, I think we're cut off from a lot of collaboration. Like
Yeah.
it's tough because my last company, like I love that company, I love their product, I love the people that I was working with, but I think
Mm.
just we were going through growing pains of being a really small startup, and we were kind of like all thrown into. I joined that company probably like a month before the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden we're all working from home, and then we have to do all this adjusting, and it doesn't help that this kind of like that adjustment period was in a time when I was really considering like not considering quitting in the first place.
Right.
Where I was already kind of doubting how much I liked that job. So yeah, um,
Did you
kind of
have a
like
game plan?
for when I quit.
Yeah, because you know you have this idea of quitting.
Mm-hmm.
You're going through hell.
Uh-huh.
You're struggling to like get through the day,
Uh-huh.
and then you're like, because I mean, I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that 60 to 90% of the people out there that work corporate are like, man, I'm ready to just fucking quit.
Yeah.
Like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
But what was your mindset? Did you say, hey, you know what, I need to plan this out, like, or were you just like, you know what, for myself, I just need to quit?
Man, I wish I could tell you more about if I like, because now I'm in a place where I've started to tutor computer science students, and I'm really feel like it's awoken something in me, and it feels like this is something, teaching and forming relationships with my students and really caring about how well they're doing and how well they're learning the material. It
Hmm.
just feels really, really right to me. Um, so right now at my current stage, it feels like I had a direction all along, but I
Right.
think back in November, like I had no idea. Um, I was really just trying to see if I could do some experiments, I think, right? Like dabble in this, dabble in that, dabble in this, dabble in that. Cause I think for, my entire life, I'd been kind of on a pre-described path where it's like I go to college, get an engineering job, work for these companies. And I never really had the kind of like time to explore what I wanted to do.
Mm.
So that was kind of my plan, is to just to kind of tinker. So yeah, I'm gonna be honest. For the first couple of weeks, all I did was play online poker, um, and that didn't go very well. So I had to quit. Um, but I did some writing. I did some. I'm a huge basketball fan, so I did some NBA visualization. I spent like probably a month or so just like getting really, really deep into that. And then one day I posted an ad for tutoring services and I got a few responses. And since then, that's where I've really seen like this is something that, so after I did that and I actually worked with the students, that's when it's really clicked for me that I think this is something I want to be doing. So yeah, it was really just the mindset that I had. It was like, I want to experiment, try different things. I don't like, even now I'm hesitant to commit to anything full time just because I want some flexibility for now, just to kind of see what sticks. And like to kind of go back to your original question about like how did you know you didn't like your job? It was kind of like uh I think when I'm tutoring and I'm teaching people and I'm writing, for example, like the more I write or the more I teach, the more ideas that I have about things I want to do. It's like a very fertile exercise for me. Like the more I teach, the more ideas that I have about teaching, the more different ways I see how my different students might be, learning things, or the more things I get curious about, basically. Whereas I feel like I'm expanding in some way. Whereas opposed to when I was working as an engineer, I always felt like I felt like part of me was shrinking in a way where I was just like, I didn't really want to. I always kind of just wanted to get my thing done as fast as possible. I wasn't able to put as much, like, I didn't care as much about the quality or like as much about,
There was a limit in like creativity,
yeah, that definitely plays a part to it, right?
and
Like,
so then all of a sudden you lose a little bit of interest or
I think
passion,
so.
right?
Yeah, I think what you're hearing is right. Like I felt constrained, either I have to do stuff really quickly in the interest of time, or like I have to do this because someone else is telling me to do it. So yeah, I think, yeah, kind of the creativity limited there for sure. For sure.
It's a weird world that we live in where all of it is necessary, right? Because like
Mm.
you wouldn't be tutoring these students had you not gone to college and done all that stuff,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure, for
So
sure,
it's
for
kind of
sure.
like, yeah, like I understand the viewpoints of like, hey, you don't have to do the conventional road
Mm-hmm.
of go to high school, go to college, get a job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
get it. You don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But man, in the society that we live in and the world that we live in, and what is needed, that's
Yeah.
a pretty good way to go, right?
100%. I'm glad you brought that up because it's like I don't think I'd ever be able to do like I would never do what I did if I didn't have, computer science and engineering to kind of fall back on. If I didn't have confidence in this skill as in this economic market, basically, like
Right, right.
if I didn't have, like I would have never just become a writer right after college at it or something, like I just don't think I'm have the fortitude to withstand like all of that uncertainty. So
Man, if
yeah,
I told my parents that I was going to graduate and then become a writer, they would probably murder me. They'd be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
what if your kid wanted to become a writer after college?
I would be like, "Yo, you better be a damn good writer." I would actually tell him, like, if he was starting to like talk like that, she talk like that, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, "All right, write me something. Let me see."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Prove it to me.
Not
Yeah.
that I would be the person who would tell them yes or no, but I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
"All right, show me that you have the passion for it, right? Show me that you're willing to dedicate yourself to that."
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's easy to like fantasize about something, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like in my head,
100%.
like I saw a film crew outside today,
Mm-hmm.
and my first degree or diploma, whatever you want to call it, was in film and television production.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, damn, I could go do that right now. I could quit my job, follow my passion, do shit like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I remember about the pay and the
Yeah.
hours and the inconsistency, and it's like, nah, nah, nah. Let me go sit behind a desk real quick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just weird, but I don't think there's anything wrong with my kid going and chasing their dreams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just depends on where I am in life, because when I graduated college, I didn't have that option of just not making money.
Yeah.
That was just not an option.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
either make
Yeah.
money or go live in a one room out of 15 for like $200 a month for rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
just in a shitty situation.
Yeah.
But when people like you and other guests that I've had who have like quit their jobs or just don't even try to play that corporate bullshit, right? They follow their passion, they do what they want to do. They might
Mm-hmm.
suffer for it, they might have to like sacrifice certain things. But at the end of the day, man, when people chase their dreams, more often than not, they become successful. Maybe not successful like, oh, look at me, I'm Jeff Bezos. I pay for
Mm-hmm.
bridges to get torn down so my yacht can
Yeah.
come through.
Yeah.
Not that type of success, but self-fulfillment,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
happiness,
Mm-hmm.
joy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, man, I envy that. And
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had the balls to do that.
Well, I mean, do you think there's stuff that's stopping you from quitting and pursuing something? Is it?
Me, myself, yeah. I mean, one, I want to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Two, I know I got to help take care of my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Three, I mean, it's, I, I think it's Kanye West that said this in a
Mm-hmm.
song. He was like, money isn't everything,
Mm-hmm.
but not having
Not
it
having it is. Yeah.
is.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And I'm
100%.
like, yo, that's truth, right? So
Yeah.
the reason that my parents immigrated and sacrificed everything is so I could be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am, I'm comfortable. So now
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
job is to make sure that I'm comfortable enough so that my children, the next generation, are even more comfortable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's one of those games where it's like, all right, what at what point do we stop caring about the next generation and just saying, hey, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm going to do me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. That's I now that you bring up your own perspective, it does again make me kind of understand my privilege a little bit more, where like I don't have as many people to worry about in my life. Like I can just focus on me right now. And I'm very lucky for that. And like I think the more people that I talk to and I get their different perspectives, like and I hear what their situations are, the more thankful I am for what I have. Um, yeah,
I,
because like not everyone, not everyone is only has to worry about them for themselves. So it sounds like you've reached like a level of maturity about like, okay, I'm doing this for, it's not just me involved, right?
yeah, and I think it. I think at the end of the day, there is no right or wrong.
Mm,
Um, at the end of the day, there's no right or wrong because I can sit here and tell you, no, don't quit your
mm-hmm,
job. You
mm-hmm.
need to do this, this, and that. Or I could tell you, no, quit your job, follow your passion, do whatever.
Yeah,
That's me telling another human being who I don't know what they've gone through what
yeah,
to do.
exactly,
I don't
exactly.
know what you've gone through. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what
Yeah.
your ambitions are. I don't know
Mm-hmm,
anything about those things. Even if we've been friends for like 5 years,
mm-hmm.
I might have an idea of like what's best for you. But at the end of the day, literally nobody on this planet can ever tell you that you're right or wrong in what you're doing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's it's up to you, dude.
Yeah, you got to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, you got to listen to yourself, listen to your
Exactly.
wants, your needs,
Yeah.
and then you're good to go.
Yeah. I
It's
think
hard.
like
It's hard though.
it is. But I think after maybe like 1 or 2 months in it, and I was doing some reflecting on my experience after, 1 or 2 months of quitting my job. I think one of the things that became apparent to me was like, I want to build a sustainable lifestyle, right? Like, I want to be doing stuff that maybe not, maybe not going to make as much money as I was making before as an engineer, but at least I can do it for longer and
Mm,
I can, I can not be burned out as much, like it's something I can sustain. And I think it's something that's valuable. Yeah, and that's like kind of one of the criteria. Like that's one of the things that I figured out that I needed for myself. Um, and yeah, right now I'm still in like kind of the still very much in the early stages. I think I'm gonna try to make tutoring like a business as much as I can.
yeah.
Like try to get as many clients as I can. Maybe even have it be where I own a tutoring business. I don't know, right? Like I'm still in the early stages of that, but it definitely feels like right now it's something that I can sustain. And yeah, like I don't know if anyone else, kind of go back to what your point is, I don't know if I could have followed anyone else's path. Like I feel like I'm very unique in some certain ways where like the human to human connection and like having a relationship with people, like especially my students, is like very, very important to me. And I feel very, very energized by that in a way that like working on software, working on code, or working on a team in a corporate environment just never really did for me. And that's my own values. I don't know why. There's some there's some set of experiences that I've had in my life that kind of contributed to my worldview, right? And that's mine alone. And no one else can really know that as much as I can, right? So it's, yeah, going
Right.
back to what you're saying about like staying true to yourself and like listening to yourself about and kind of trusting yourself at some level, like being able to um trust that what you're doing is like right for you at some level. Because I think when I first quit my job, like one of the things that I worried about was like how my parents would take it. Because they're very much of the traditional Asian, like stable job is happiness and work hard in your job and like value your career stability above everything else. And I'm like, here I am just trying to quit, you know, like, hey, by the way, like I don't work anymore, mom. Um, but I think gradually I've been able to talk to them more and I think they kind of slowly understanding kind of like my point of view, just because the world that we live in today is very different than the world that my parents grew up in, right? Like the
Right.
opportunities, even like social media and TikTok and Instagram and kind of like the way influence is gained is just so different. Like I don't even know if our parents can really imagine what like an influencer is and why how that's even a thing. But for better or for worse, that's just kind of how our world operates, right?
I wish I could say that. My dad lives on TikTok.
Oh, really?
He's like 200 years old, just watching TikTok all day.
Does he send you stuff?
Yeah, he sends it in the group chat.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, some of
That's
them, every now and then he'll send something good, but
uh
nah, but yeah, I completely agree. And it's a different world. Evolution is inevitable, right?
yeah.
Like, oh, why are you driving a car? You got a perfectly good horse down the street, no
hmm
gas, no nothing. You just feed it, water it, and you can ride the horse all day. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
well, we kind of outgrew that, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Same thing today, right? It's a different world, and the values versus needs and wants, it's a delicate balance that only you can measure, right?
hmm
So you might value, teaching your specialty,
hmm
but man, if you were starving and people needed you and were dependent on you, you might not be okay with that income.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think like one of the things I'm trying to really buy into is like not shutting any doors off. Like obviously I
Right.
have a direction that I'm trying to go to right now, but exactly like if I have a kid, then maybe all things are going to change and I want to go
Right.
back to and like now suddenly the corporate life is great for me. And that's
Exactly.
that's not something that I'm ever going to shut away. So I like the tutoring route because it does allow me to keep my computer science knowledge like somewhat relevant and somewhat sharp. And I love teaching for one part just because it really makes you understand your own material so much better. Just really, really hones you in into what you know and you don't know, and we have to explain it to someone else. Like you can't be wasting any time with some stuff that isn't right. So you really have to make sure you know what you're doing. So that's a good way for me to stay relevant. But yeah, like along those lines, like if you had asked me a year ago if I could end up in New York, right? I would have been like, what? That's crazy. And then now I'm here and I have no plans on moving anytime soon. Just kind of like I can't really predict the future. Like if I rule anything out, it'll be kind of um presumptuous in some way. Like I'm just trying to do the best with with the data that I'm given at any particular moment and trying to make the best decision for myself at that point in time. Yeah, and exactly what you're saying. Like if I once I have people who depend on me, yeah, it's very, very likely I go back to a corporate job and then I'm suddenly okay with like all of the money making and I'm a perfect corporate worker just because my circumstances have changed.
Yeah. No, I honestly, it's beautiful to hear stuff like that. Like I've had a handful of guests who were like, "Man, you could have never convinced me that I would be where I am today."
Mm-hmm.
And that just, for me, that's beautiful because
Mm.
today, with even with all the nasty shit out there in the world,
Mm-hmm.
today is the best day to ever be a human on
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have beyond privilege, beyond opportunity, beyond everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Think about like 1776, right? When the United States was being founded. What are they doing? They're riding horses. They're like,
Yeah.
they don't know anything. Like once the sun goes down, it's night night, right? Like you got a few
Uh-huh.
candles.
Sure.
Um, and guess what? Where you're born, you're probably gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a good chance.
Your opportunities are limited. If you're wealthy, you'll probably learn how to read and write.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But
if
your mobility is limited, right?
mm-hmm,
Like, yeah. Yeah.
your
Yeah.
knowledge of the world is close to zero.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Today, dude, I can go to Google Earth and
Yeah.
start looking at people's houses in South Africa if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
like, you know what? I think I want to live in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I can.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have the ability to.
Yeah.
Like what?
It's
Like
possible. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's like we now obviously not everyone in the world has the privilege and the luckiness
Mm-hmm.
to be like us, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I acknowledge that, you know, there are other countries and other people within this country who don't have that access, who don't have that education, who don't have that freedom. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's important to always put it in perspective, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
100%.
and
Yeah.
this is why I think we talked about it for like a split second. Like
Mm-hmm.
any day
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like feeling a little down,
Oh yeah.
I look out the window and I'm like, motherfucker, I am in New York City.
I know. Yeah.
Stable income. If I'm
Yeah.
thirsty, I will go open that tap water,
Uh-huh.
drink as much as I want.
Yep.
If I need to use the bathroom, I have a clean, well, maybe not too clean. I have a clean bathroom that I can go take a shit in. I
Uh-huh.
am good. I have soap. I have disinfectant wipes. I have dusters. I have a
Yep.
computer. I have multiple computers.
Yep.
It's like, what the fuck do I have to bitch about?
Yeah, you got a Joe's Pizza not too far away from you, you know.
Yeah. I got look. I can go on the train, go to Flushing, get me some good dumplings or whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah,
Right? It's like,
exactly. You have so much, yeah, so much access to different things here. Yeah.
like it doesn't solve the problems that I have, but
Hmm.
it puts it in perspective.
Are you able to, do you think you've gotten better at incorporating that kind of thought pattern into your life when maybe you are feeling a little bit down? Is that something you've been able to like get better at doing?
Um, so I think I had two breakthrough moments in my life.
Mm-hmm.
One was before I graduated community college, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Went through some shit where I was always trying to like, I don't know. I don't know why. Like this is a weird, I guess, foreign topic here, but
Mm-hmm.
it seems like outside of the US, and I have like jokes about this in my stand up, or I try to
Mm-hmm.
have jokes about it, but outside of
Mm-hmm.
the US, family is like everything.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like that in Asia too. Yeah.
And here in the US, family is like who takes care of you until you're 18 and then you're done,
Yeah.
right? It just like, not that they don't love each other or they don't care about each other. I'm not saying that. But the prioritization, the
Yeah.
importance, the sacrifice, the everything, it's just different. I don't know how to describe it properly.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
But I had a moment before I graduated community college where I was just like, you know what? I love my family,
Mm-hmm.
but they're human just like me.
Mm-hmm.
They make
Mm-hmm.
mistakes just like me.
Mm-hmm.
They have, I don't know, like you can't glorify family too much. But this is my perspective, okay? Like this is my
Mm-hmm.
perspective. I'm not saying it's everyone should follow this, but from my perspective, everyone is everyone. Everyone's an individual. It is what it is. And so then
Mm-hmm.
my relationship with the idea of family changed because it's like, wait a minute, we're family because of the DNA and because of I didn't choose to be born in Mexico City. I
Yeah.
didn't choose to
Yeah.
have my parents as my parents.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to
Mm-hmm.
me how I interpret that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was breakthrough moment one, and then breakthrough moment two was once I got out of my 4-year college
Mm-hmm.
and I got a real job. I was like, oh shit, I actually have money now,
Mm-hmm.
and just knowing how much power came with that,
Mm.
it was like, holy shit. It just put everything into perspective of like everyone that I knew, everyone that I grew up with, every like my family, everything just the dynamic just shifted so much
Mm-hmm.
that I couldn't help but just think of like how lucky and privileged I was.
Mm.
And I think from that day on
Mm-hmm.
is where I was just like, I can't complain. I just can't. And so I'm like, out of how many days are there? 365, something like that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
happy like 360 out of those days.
Okay. Okay.
Like I'm just like,
regardless of what's happening in your life, like, you
yeah.
know.
I mean, like there, of course, there are moments that are like painful or sad
Uh-huh.
and all that good stuff. And
Yeah.
and it's only human to feel those emotions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
don't, I'm not saying that people shouldn't feel sad or angry or whatever, but
Yeah.
I got to the point where it's just like, look, man. And I actually had a guest, Shay, a couple
Mm-hmm,
episodes back.
mm-hmm.
He put in really good perspective. He was like,
Mm.
I'm going to kick out the middle and I'm going to focus on the micro and the macro.
Okay.
And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, here's what it means. You focus on the micro, which is
Mm.
like where you are today, what you
Mm-hmm.
can control.
Mm.
So like I can text my mom and tell her that I love her and I can
Yeah.
do all that
Yeah.
good stuff. That's within my control.
Yeah.
And then the macro, which is the universe is ever expanding. We're all gonna die. Nothing
Mm.
lasts forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just part of the universe. Like there,
Sure.
everything else in the middle. Why worry about it?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you focus on that middle part, you're gonna feel stressed out. Like I know so many people that like read the news and they're like, oh my god, you know,
Yeah.
Trump did this and climate change is this and you know the liberals are trying to like shut everyone up and blah 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 and it's like, why do you worry about that?
Yeah. Like, why do you subject to yourself to be
Yeah,
pulled in these those directions? Yeah.
yeah, these are a lot of things that you are completely out of your control. No matter how upset you are, you're not gonna do anything about it,
Yeah.
right? Like it's all part of this universe and whatever. It's all right, cool. It'll take care of
Yeah.
itself. You know,
Yeah.
if you take
Yeah.
care of what you can take care of,
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll be okay.
Sounds like it's kind of like just accepting some things, right? Like learning what to accept and what learning like kind of what to let go of. And yeah, that stuff is a I feel like it's kind of it's a part of really growing up, I think, and it's a part of the kind of knowing yourself, and it's a part of it's kind of like a process that's in itself as you kind of the more things happen to you, the more you're able to kind of respond, and like kind of like the more life experience you have, the more the more experience you have navigating these things. And I think as you get more experiences, kind of like the stuff that you can accept and the stuff that you learn to like not accept all just kind of makes sense after a while. It's kind of an ongoing process. um
Yeah, and it's a culmination of, like you said, life experience and just, I don't know how else to put it, but letting the universe be the universe, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with that statement like 100%. Especially like kind of taking this to a little bit of a turn, but especially for some of like the emotions that I feel day to day. I feel like I'm pretty sensitive to emotions. Like I definitely feel sadness and disappointment and happiness and all that kind of stuff. Um, and like I'm trying to adopt a view of like having more gratitude in my life, especially about like kind of the things you were saying about like, oh wow, we live in New York City, like we have tap water, we have clean sewage, we have such great food and such great people around us. And I'm really trying to like, make myself think about that more automatically, I think, and like trying to stay grounded in that. But at the same time, like, yeah, there'll be times when like I do, obviously I feel sad or I feel lonely or disappointed and these more negative emotions. And I think like I'm trying to just like when I do feel those ways, like don't try to fight them. Just like let myself let myself feel them and be kind to myself, and don't try to like beat myself up for having them, and kind of just let them play out as they need to. um and this is like a little bit of a switch in topics too, but I feel like also like quitting my job let me realize that like how sometimes those emotions or those things could be ignored, because like let's say something happened to you the night before and then the next day you got to go to work, and then you're kind of ignoring some things that are you're kind of like the work is taken away from you, the attention that maybe this thing inside of you needs, and it just becomes like it becomes bottled up or it becomes compartmentalized. And like let's say after work then you go hang with your friends, and it just like you're just kind of not giving it the full attention that you need. And I don't know like if you keep on doing that over the years, it can like accumulate into some type of some baggage or stuff like that. So that's one of the other things I'm very grateful for having, taking this time off is like I kind of let some things play out in myself the way that they needed to. Like they just got the right amount of time and attention that they needed to, instead of like turning into some other parts of me that like weren't fully addressed, if that makes sense.
Do you think that you would hide those emotions or suppress some of those maybe feels that you wanted or could have
Uh-huh.
had because you felt uncomfortable, or is it because the people around you in society and etc
Yeah.
expected you to just be okay every day?
I think that's it's more of the like I mean probably a little bit of both, but definitely the latter stands out to me more, where it's like
There's an
it's an
expectation.
yeah, exactly. And I think especially as something I think about a lot and something I talked about a lot recently, just as kind of like a guy who I grew up playing a lot of sports, and just kind of those environments are not really the most conducive to vulnerability, I would say, or like being not okay. And so you kind of just learn to like bottle them up a little bit, or like not express them as fully as they need to. And yeah, I think I'm realizing now that it's like if I'm not expressing myself fully, like I don't know what it is, like if it's some type of emotion or some type of feeling or like some type of disappointment or something like that. Like I don't feel like myself. I think I've gotten over that that hump of like people expect me to be this, so I'm always going to be like that, right? I think I'm as I get older, it's like I'm just accepting that this is who I am and kind of just like putting that out there into the world. And it just kind of like it's nice for me. It's like a nice little burden that's lifted, and I just feel like okay, here I am, world. You can do what you want with it, and I'll be okay.
And isn't it crazy that the world is okay and that you are okay?
Yeah, and it's like even in some ways, like it's a lot better if when you are like that.
It's a weird concept that society, whether you're in a team sport, in school,
Mm-hmm.
at a job, whatever it is. I mean, if you are yourself,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, obviously not always, but most of the time, people will appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, assuming that your true self isn't a complete asshole, right?
Not like a sociopath or
Like,
anything
all
like
right,
that.
you know what? I'm gonna be myself, and you just start kicking everyone in the nuts, right? It's
Yeah, and
like,
it's like, well,
wow.
I'm just being myself, man. Like you deal with it. Yeah, that's
Well,
not.
that type of Jimmy, we don't really like him.
Oh man, thanks for telling me. I was, I was this close to
Yeah.
just
It's like,
unleashing
man,
it.
starting tomorrow, I'm gonna kick
Yeah,
everyone in the nuts.
but Pablo really changed my mind about that.
Nah, it's a weird world that we live in, man, and
Yeah, I
it's just I don't know. It's super simple and yet super complicated.
I know. I feel like it's like it I always kind of feel like the simpler things kind of take a while to arrive at,
Mm.
like a while for at least for me to realize, okay, it is that simple, but like maybe I don't know, maybe like the simplicity is the price you pay for like the journey that you had to go through to get there or something. I don't know, some weird arc like that. I've It's like these things, like I don't know if I think too hard about them, none of it makes any sense, and I just get lost and I just start thinking in circles. And then at this point, it's like, okay, let's shut the brain off for a while and just let's just focus on the micro and the macro.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. I've met I don't know, man. I've met thousands of people in my lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd say that most of them I can take something away from. And I think
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah,
I I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah.
And most people I want to keep in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know people that are like, well, why would I want to keep talking to this person if they live, somewhere else and I don't see them and I don't talk to them and
Mm,
what are we going to talk about? Like what's the point of using that energy to keep in touch? But
yeah.
for me, it's like I want to keep in touch because I want to see how they're doing. I want to see
Mm,
what they're doing. I want to see
yeah.
like everything about it, right? Like if I
Mm-hmm.
could, man, every single podcast it'd be like 5 hours, just like going into all the details. Like tell me more, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the more
yeah.
they tell me, the more I learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I don't. A lot of people, and I actually had a conversation with someone earlier today
Mm-hmm.
where I was trying to project an idea, and all they could do was go back to like a formula. Like, oh, you mean like this? I can like do this instead, or I can do that. I'm like, no, 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 no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no. You're not understanding. Like, it's an
Mm-hmm.
emotion, it's a connection,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And they're like, no, 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 no. I can blah blah blah. And it's like maybe that person will just never understand certain things, or maybe they're just not there yet, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
regardless, I don't think any less of them. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
appreciate them any less. I don't
yeah.
anything, right? It's like, you know what? Once you understand that everyone's in a different journey, different
Mm-hmm.
position, different everything, it's like you begin to love everybody.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
why I love talking to people. I love
Mm-hmm.
hearing their story. I love keeping in touch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I can't help it. I just it as corny as it sounds, but I mean love is just the best thing ever.
Yeah, no,
And it just lets you
100%.
be free.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're just loving your fellow human, right? I think it's just having love and compassion for your fellow humans just makes everything a little bit easier.
Oh yeah.
It
Oh
just
yeah.
it just lets you, I think, view everyone in a positive light. You know, you hold less grudges. You're just generally like a happier, lighter being. I think if you're doing that. Um, there's something that I think I had to come to recently too, where it's like I might notice that okay, in this particular topic, one of my friends doesn't engage me as much as I know, like like Pablo's good at asking me questions, but X doesn't ask as many questions that really kind of like dig into my core or whatever, make me feel seen, right? But that doesn't take away anything from person X because person X does a really good job of doing this, right? And like I can fully appreciate him or her for that quality in them,
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't and just this other thing doesn't take away from their strengths as a human being. And it's like the same way, right? Like if I think about it, it's like okay, I'm sure they can notice particular things in me, right, that maybe other people do differently that might resonate with them more, but I hope they can still view me as a complete human being the same way.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing that you just said at the end is like, can they still see me as a complete human being?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's so weird because I almost never think about that in the
Mm-hmm.
perspective of what are they thinking of me, or how do they view me, or how do
Mm-hmm.
they see me?
Mm-hmm.
Because, and maybe I'm completely wrong and maybe I'm flawed or whatever it may be, but the way I see it is it doesn't matter how the person next to me or in front of me that I'm talking to or whatever sees me. What
Mm-hmm.
I see is someone that I care about and I love, and I will let them know that through my actions and
Mm-hmm.
through my whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all I can control.
That's interesting. So it doesn't even come to like this the mirror reflection of
No, I can't control. Like if you and me go out one night and we get trashed and we talk about whatever politics, and let's say we disagree,
yeah,
I'm pro Trump and you're like pro Hillary or whatever, and
yeah,
at the end of the day I'm like, all right, I told this guy how I feel,
yeah.
and we've hung out whatever. I didn't do anything to harm him.
Mm-hmm.
All I can think about is, all right, I put myself there. I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
stood wherever.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I don't think any less of you because you were pro Hillary.
yeah.
And so it doesn't even cross my mind that you would
Mm.
look at me and be like, oh, well, you're a piece of shit for,
Yeah,
being a
yeah.
Trumper or whatever.
Mm.
I like
Mm-hmm.
red and you like yellow. And it's like, who
Mm-hmm.
cares? Like, I don't know. I just put myself out there. I show that I care.
Yeah,
And that's all I can control because I can't control how you view me.
yeah. Well, Pablo, maybe that's the thing I need to take away from this podcast is to get a little bit more Pablo energy in me.
Dude, I was you met Ben.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We were
yeah.
talking a little bit about stuff like that, and he was like, "Yeah, but you're a rare breed." He's like, and I'm like, "True, maybe, but I genuinely feel like if I'm genuinely myself,
Yeah, yeah.
that's all I got, man.
Yeah,
That's all I got."
I 100% agree with that. And I kind of like it when I write and stuff. Like I think it lets me be vulnerable to a point where I'm just okay with everything that I put out there, right? Like I'm not lying.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to say something for any alternative motives. I'm just saying because that was my own true experience, right? Like I'm not trying for anyone to think of me differently through writing. Yeah, and one of the things I wrote about after I quit was kind of like my mental health journey.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, I shared it with the people I follow on my Instagram network, and some of the responses that I got from people that I like, haven't really kept in touch with over the years, just really meant a lot to me. Either they say they appreciated, that I was sharing, or they appreciate the vulnerability, or they're saying that like they could really resonate with me. Um, I think that was very validating. It's kind of like affirming for that. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna put my entire self out there, and then the rest will kind of take care of itself. We can't do much beyond that.
Right. But it's funny how the little things mean so much.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I totally feel you on that.
It's so weird because even though I have my beliefs and I am the way I am,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, every now and then someone will like say something and it's like, huh. Like
Yeah.
even though I can't control any of whatever's going on outside of my body,
Mm-hmm.
I it just means so much sometimes.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. You know, the way I like to think about it is language is more than just words, right? It's how we communicate. We communicate through words, but they're probably touching on something that's more core to our being than
Mm-hmm.
just the words themselves. So then when some people say some things in a certain way, it really latches onto you, right?
Yep.
And like it just sticks with you somehow. Like those words were like the perfect pieces to the puzzle at that particular moment. And it like, yeah, it just sticks with you, maybe like makes you see things in a new perspective or like unlocks a certain thing. And I kind of like, yeah, a lot of the times are like the smallest things, like just me talking to somebody and then we're kind of comparing our experiences. And then it's like, even like me and you talking right now, where it's like, oh, you're like, oh, I don't really even have that own mirror conception of what they're thinking of me is kind of like a thing that's making me be like, oh, okay, hey, like, is that something I can consider for myself? Right. And like in the context of whatever we're talking about, it's such like a minor point, but it could have that like outsized impact on someone else. Or it's like even like the smallest comments that have people will say about something that I write just means so like it means so much more than I think they'll ever know, like in terms of motivating me or like making me feel good about what I'm doing. So yeah, that's I don't know if that's what you meant by what
No,
you're saying, but that's
absolutely.
that's it's like that's how I was interpreting it.
No, absolutely. And it goes both ways, right? Somebody can say something that can like hurt you, right?
Oh yeah,
When you like
yeah,
put yourself out there and they're like, "Well, that was stupid." Like, why are you
yeah.
wasting your time? And it's like, "Huh."
Damn. Yeah.
But it's again, nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Um like I said, even me at 360 days of the year being happy, I have my moments where it's like, "Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Like what am I doing?" Or
Mm.
somebody said something that kind of hurt, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
let
yeah.
me think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um but whether it's good or bad, you can't sit on it for too long, right?
Yeah, you can't let it.
Regardless.
Yeah, you can't let it like spiral into something that now has a life of its own.
Right. So I've said this before, but I think part of the reason that my ex used to hate me is because I try to take all those emotions out,
Mm.
like out of the equation, right? Like, all right, what's going on? X, Y, and Z. Exclude all emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we? Like, what's going
Mm-hmm.
on? How do we fix this?
Okay.
And my ex was very emotional.
Yeah.
So that didn't go very well with her.
I don't know if you can just ignore those emotions though, right? Like,
It's never going to be 100,
uh-huh.
like never. Like as much as I practice being happy and being everything else and not mirroring and all this stuff, it's never 100, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to be 100. But let's say that we're in a situation where, me and my friend got in an argument because he thought that I stole
Yeah.
something,
Yeah. Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
I didn't steal it. Do I sit down and say, you know what? How dare he even think that I would
Yeah.
steal that shit? Like, fuck him.
Yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
dare he even think that way? Blah, blah, blah. Is he even a friend? Blah, blah, blah. Like, yada, yada, yada. And next thing you know, you're never talking to that friend ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of like just being able to revisit things when you're more in a calm state, right? When you're not as charged,
Right.
basically.
Taking
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
emotions out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You take
Yeah.
all of those emotions, you get rid of them and say, all right, what's the situation? He thought I
Yeah.
stole something. Okay. How can I prove that I didn't steal this? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
break it down. And then
Mm-hmm.
from your perspective, that's what you can provide.
Yeah.
Now, your
Yeah.
friend, if he's really emotional,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be like, no, fuck you. I'm not listening to you. You
Yeah.
stole my shit. I don't like, fuck you. Like, I thought you were a good friend. Blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are never going to make up.
Yeah. 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 I guess like I think it's, at least for me, in my experience with these things, I think it's important not to invalidate someone's emotions when they are feeling that way, but just knowing it's like if you address them at that moment, it's just not going to be very productive because it's
Right.
preventing you from actually, it's clouding the issue, right?
Right.
Like it has the ability to kind of turn one thing into this huge thing. And now you're bringing up things that happened like 2 weeks ago. And like when you didn't take out the trash and then now it smells and now the people came over afterwards and then now they hate us because it smelled bad and blah, blah, blah. Right. Like you don't want to just snowball into that type of, that type of thing.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that it's not that you're not validating their emotions. It's more of, okay, you're angry.
Mm-hmm.
You're angry because you thought I stole something.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me tell you the evidence that shows that I didn't steal it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not telling them that their emotions are invalid. That's all.
Yeah.
All you're saying is the reason that those
Mm-hmm.
emotions are occurring is invalid.
Mm-hmm.
Your emotions
Mm-hmm.
are okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the ground that it's standing on isn't there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so people interpret that as, oh, well, you're not acknowledging my anger.
Mm-hmm.
But that has absolutely nothing to do with just disproving something, right?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Because
That's true.
if you want to acknowledge their anger, then you have to be like, all right, cool. Yeah, I stole it and I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you're, instead of addressing the truth, you're addressing their emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
And that's just completely unhealthy and like very dangerous. Very dangerous. Like this is how abusive relationships occur.
I guess I think it takes some emotional awareness on the part of the other person too, though, to recognize their own
Well,
anger.
exactly. This is why I said like all I can do
Mm-hmm.
is take the emotions out, get down to the core of it, and explain it. If the other person never loses that anger, we'll never
Yeah.
get anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have to take a step back, put their anger to the side, and then we can start talking about, okay, why is this or this not true, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then you can get somewhere.
Yeah.
But I can't
Yeah.
control that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you
That's
get
true.
mad at me, I cannot control your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah.
All I can do is say, hey, Jimmy, I didn't steal your camera, man.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even in your house. I don't even know where you live.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to be like, Jimmy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Because then that's acknowledging that you're like, your irrational emotions are correct.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy.
It's almost like doing something so that you don't avoid, like that's doing something to appease the other person rather than actually addressing what's going on. And then if that keeps on happening, that can lead to a lot of bad stuff down the line.
Right. It just leads to abusive relationships.
Mm. Yeah, where
And
you like people are being taken advantage of and stuff
exactly.
like that. Yeah, yeah, I could see that.
Where
I
one
could see
partner
that.
gets angry and the other person's like, okay, 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 I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't fix the issue. Just acknowledge their emotion and fix their emotions. It's like no, 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 no.
And then nothing gets better. It just gets worse over time, basically.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, I'm just talking from my experience, from the way
Mm-hmm.
I see things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe a professional
I guess.
relationship person is like, man, don't listen to this dude.
Yeah. Who's this Pablo guy? Hour into the podcast, just saying stuff.
Absolute nonsense.
Yeah. Cancel this guy. Cancel this
Dude, have you been
podcast.
watching all that stuff?
Oh, I try not to. I try not to pay too much attention to it. Has there been like a recent example of something that happened?
Yeah, man. It's just like I also don't really like pay too much attention to the news,
Yeah.
but I swear to God, every time I turn on any website, it's like Joe Rogan, Spotify,
Oh, yeah.
um, what's that guy, Neil Young,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all like, "Get him out of here," and it's like, why are so many people so invested in this?
Well, what was I didn't actually know what Joe Rogan did.
I think in the beginning he started talking to a lot of like anti-vaxxers,
Mm,
even though he's not an anti-vaxxer because his like whole family's vaccinated.
okay.
Um, but he himself is not a fan of it because he's like, well, if you're young and healthy, maybe don't take the vaccine, right? For no
Okay.
reason. I don't know why,
Yeah,
but
he's okay. Yeah.
which, I don't agree with. But hey, you know what? I know people who refuse to get the vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
and that's on them,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't
Yeah.
give a shit. Like, I tell them, hey, maybe get the vaccine. If they don't do it, I can't control it.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
worry about it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so then they started telling him, like, they try to cancel him because of that, like misinformation, et cetera, et cetera. Um, Now I haven't seen all these episodes, so I have no fucking clue if it's true or not. But
Mm-hmm.
because of Spotify not wanting to take him down, people started to dig into more
Oh.
shit, and then they found somebody made a clip of every single time Joe Rogan has said the N word,
Yeah.
and so it became viral. And it's like, all right, hold on. In what context was he saying the N word, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Like one of the episodes that I have seen of his is with what is his name? Daryl Davis, I think, something like that.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's a black musician who literally talks to the KKK to convert them out of the KKK.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure in that episode, maybe I'm wrong, but Joe Rogan says the N word because they're having a discussion about race and about vocabulary and everything else. And
Yeah.
so that's an intellectual conversation where the N word comes up. Now, some people might say, you can't
Like
say it no matter what.
you should never say that in no
Never,
context.
never,
It's
never,
okay.
never, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people are like, well, look, you gotta acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
where we are and who we are as a society, right?
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, that little 1 second clip of him saying the N word, they found every single time he said the N word and just put a compilation, right? Of
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And so then everyone's losing their fucking mind. Like, whoa, this Joe Rogan guy is just like a massive racist.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, is he though? Like, I don't know. But
Yeah.
again, why do people care? I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, the cancel stuff is on my mind lately, just because I was at the Comedy Cellar on Saturday, and I think that's on the top of a lot of comedians' minds. Is just like, am I just gonna say shit that gets canceled, that gets me canceled these days? Because I know you do some stand up comedy, and right, it's always like, oh, I feel like a lot of the funniest stuff exists on those places that might be a little bit controversial. So especially for comedians, I think that's like such a more of an outsized deal because like it's almost like threatening freedom of speech in some way.
Yeah, I think people just lose the perspective of context. I think
Yeah,
I think that's the
yeah.
problem.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, hopefully nothing we said is going to be taken out of context here. So
I'm sure all of it is going to be taken out of
yeah,
context.
it's just going to be just clips of us just saying the most brutal stuff.
So
It's like,
what are you writing about, and what is your goal here? Because
actually,
I'm gonna share. Is it, if it's okay, I'm gonna share your
oh, of
work.
course. Yeah, of course.
Is it just gonna be the N word over and over and over?
yeah, like Pablo, fuck Pablo. It's like this guy happy 360 days of the
How
week, man.
dare
yeah.
he?
Come on, man. Yeah, let me clean up some stuff on that Substack before you should. I'm just kidding. There's nothing. Everything on there is fair game. I don't know what I'm really writing about these days. Um it's like kind of whenever stuff comes to my mind, like whenever I feel like there's stuff that needs to be written, then I write about it. Right now I'm kind of just focusing on tutoring, like
Mm,
building that business, like starting a website, like even like registering as a company so I can expense a lot of the stuff that I'm buying right now.
hell yeah.
Like trying to, yeah, get my clients, trying to get testimonials, like trying to, like, one of the things I'm really trying to do is figure out if there's a way to like use TikTok and social media to like market what I'm doing. Like, if there's a way to like record videos of me teaching my students and finding like the really impactful moments and like, presenting that as here, yeah, this is my teaching style or something.
Yeah, you can definitely do something like that.
Yeah, like I think that stuff is all kind of more exciting to me than writing.
Hmm.
But and like, I think eventually I will be writing a lot about like teaching actually. Um, and just kind of like methodologies or just experiences or like particular relations, anything that comes up there. Um, but yeah, for now, like nothing has really struck me in terms of like, okay, I need to be writing about this right now. Um, but that's always like, but when I do find those topics, then usually sit down for 2 or 3 agonizing days and I try to get something out there. So
How often do you write in general? Like not necessarily to like publish, but just write.
it's a good question. I'm trying to do more writing, deliberate writing with my students, like after I work with them, just to like give a recap of the session and like
Mm.
here's what we did. Here's what I want you to focus on. Here's what I want you to take away. Just because I think that stuff is like it's really valuable to be doing, spending that extra time doing that. Um, like over the years, like that's the stuff that I think if I maintain a good habit with that, like it's going to compound because I can always reference those recaps. Like I can always reuse some of the stuff that I've wrote to my kid, like not my kids, my students.
Right.
So uh yeah, I mean it really depends, man. Like I think I'm in such like I have so much free time right now that it's really kind of I just like go with wherever the current is taking me. So like there's a good stretch of my life, maybe like a month ago, where I was writing every day for like 2 weeks, and that felt great. Like it felt great to just like sit down every single morning and start writing. Right now it's kind of like more in the tutoring phase of things, so I'm more focused on that. Like if I have a student that I'm working with in the morning, then usually my mind is still reeling after working with him, that like that occupies my attention, and like I maybe start to do some research or I start to look into some more prep materials, so it doesn't leave too much time for writing. But yeah, I'm very much like a wave person like that, like whatever. I kind of ride momentum. So yeah, I don't
No,
know.
I feel on that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's just like I can't force myself to write every single day, just because I feel like if I don't have anything what I want to write about, then I'm just not going to produce good writing. So
That's the hard part, right? Is finding
no, yeah,
something that you can do on a daily basis or nearly daily basis.
yeah, like you can be prolific at.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
it is.
that you enjoy.
Yeah, and that has like some, like some value. I mean, I guess it doesn't even have to have any value in the world, but it's just something you can enjoy.
There's value in everything.
Well,
Just
like I could be prolific at like like drinking lots of beer every night. I don't know if that's the best thing that I should be doing though.
well, the value is if it makes you happy, it'll make Anheuser Busch happy.
yeah.
Look, there's value somewhere, right?
Sure, sure. We can find an angle.
Nah, Jimmy. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
That was one of the podcasts where I talked the most, man.
Oh, no, well, hey, like this is the conversation, right? It's not just a one-way interview.
No, yeah, and I honestly appreciated it. I like the topics. I do because I think one of the easiest yet most difficult things to fix in this country is mental health,
Mm, mm,
and obviously I have my opinions. Everyone has their opinions, um, but it's something that more people should discuss.
yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Like the more we talk about these things honestly with each other, I think the better we'll all be. Because I think we'll realize that, like, hey, we're not alone. We'll learn different perspectives from different people. And I think like those perspectives, like they add up and they really allow you to see things and see things with flexibility, I think, which is a lot of about, I think, what being mentally healthy is requires to be mentally healthy in like this day and age where there's just like so much stuff going on all the time.
Oh yeah, there's too much stuff.
Yeah, it's not, we don't live in a simple, just like eat, sleep, you know.
Yeah, it's not about just survival. Now it's about,
Yeah.
am I popular enough?
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
am I doing this?
am I fulfilled enough? Which is like some bullshit thing
Right,
that like two
right,
generations ago would never understand.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
A
got some
lot
like
of,
10-year-old kid cleaning chimneys.
yeah. It's like fulfillment. What the heck is that?
Yeah, they're like, yo, I'm just trying to eat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're lucky. We're lucky, dude.
Exactly. Yeah. Gratitude for all of that.
Absolutely. Well, again, it's been a pleasure, man.
Of course. And thanks for having me. I'll see you soon, Pablo.